Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, Allison?
Drain Commissioner Christensen,
Present.
Road Commissioner Greenan,
Here.
Commissioner Ross, here. Member Thompson,
Here.
Member Warner,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. I was going to give Richard a chance to say a few words.
Hello.
Maybe we could just go down the line. Drew, why don't you start, introduce yourself, and this is Richard.
I'm Richard Lewis. I'm your interim county administrator until the end of hopefully July. When I say hopefully, we'll be done by the end of July, and you can have somebody else, Anyway, so I'm here, and I was told that I need to be at this meeting this morning to listen to some discussion and what we need to be assisting you to go next with. So take it there. So
Nice to meet you, Drew Warner.
Thank you. And Drew, you're with?
I'm just on the Dam Authority here.
Okay.
I own the Whaleback Inn in Leland, and I'm a real estate agent, and
Okay, good.
just kind of here to help out if I can.
Thanks.
Richard Thompson, I'm just an old engineer.
Who lives on the lake and,
Yeah, I'm Gareth Green, and I'm the road commissioner's representative on the committee and also an old engineer.
Okay. So you're on the road commission?
Yes,
Okay, you're a member of the commission. Okay.
yes.
Steve Christensen, Drain Commissioner, Soil Erosion Control Officer,
And everything
Cherry
else?
Farmer for fun, and an old engineer.
Cameron Ross, not an old engineer, an old forester, but Leland is one of my two districts, so the dam is in my district, so that's why I'm here representing.
Okay, let's
Did you
see
do
here.
Additions and deletions to the,
That's next.
oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, 4
I thought I'd give
engineers and one, the odds are about even. Maybe y'all will win.
Let's hope.
Thank you much, and thanks, Richard, for being here and
Well, thank
stepping up. We really appreciate it. I, for one, think Deb did a heck of a job and willfully went forward with a procedure to eliminate her position, so I think that's admirable. Okay, we're down to approval of agenda and late additions or deletions. Number 1A, I'd like to add Pat Machin, who's here today, the engineering firm that we hired to, in essence, point us in the right direction with an RFP to go out to bids for the maintenance of the hydraulic system for the dam. So that would be 1A. Number 6, I'd like to add miscellaneous reports from Steve. And I'm open for other suggestions.
I would like to follow up with something from the first meeting of the year in January, I believe it was. Unfortunately, I missed your last meeting, but it just seems like there's a lot of information on social media about lake levels. And again, I just think it's time to do some sort of news release that kind of explains again every year kind of the court order, and perhaps with the policy manual, the procedure manual update, and also our kind of expanded relationship with the Leelanau Lake Association. I think those are all newsworthy bits of information that would be helpful for the public to know that we're working on. And I'd like to see us create some sort of news release in the coming weeks that kind of updates with facts to the public. I'd be willing to help work on it, like I said in January, but it'd be nice if it came from the county or this authority somehow.
Kama, I have written a letter, or an article rather, for the Lake Association that I'll distribute today for approval of the members here. They want to put an article in their next newsletter about who controls the lake level, what their responsibility is. So I'll share that when we get to that part of the meeting.
Yeah, because I think coming from the authority is maybe important too, though. I mean, yeah, there's a distinction, yeah, we need to be sure we're clear on that, but I appreciate that. That's probably going to cover what I think needs to be covered. Thanks.
So,
Okay.
Can we add that to?
so number 7 will be social media / news. Camera Rick. I sense a committee coming out of that. The 1A will encompass item 2 and 3 also, which is replacement cylinder and design for power unit. Any other additions or deletions? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as modified, adding items 1A, 6, and 7.
Support.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. We have an agenda. Do we have any minutes, Allison?
Yes, it should be in front of you from the February meeting.
Okay, let's take a few minutes just to peruse these if we could.
I think you had only had one motion really of action. That was to take your stuff to the board in March, which you did.
Right, and I did go to the board, and the board waived the bid policy, which they rarely do. And we went ahead and hired Machine Engineering to craft our direction for us. So that was done. I've got a copy of that agreement signed by Pat and signed by Ty Wessel. Any comments about the minutes?
Make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Support?
We have a motion, we have support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? All righty. Okay. Public comment. Just state your name, where you live, so Allison can hear it. There are microphones right there, and away we go.
Okay. My name is Chris Crum, Lake Leelanau, on the South Lake. I was here at the Thursday meeting, the September meeting. Couldn't make the other two. In the September meeting, I brought up the problems with the elevated levels on South Lake Leelanau. I've been a property owner there for close to 10 years, and many summers enjoyed the lake, our shoreline, our pontoon. And last year, things had changed. The lake level had gone up a good 8 inches from previous summers. The previous owners put boulders down along the lake shore, and the waves would just barely touch the boulders. Now the lake level is so high in the summer that it's actually washing out the soil behind the boulders. I can't cut my lawn anymore with a lawnmower because it's like walking on a wet sponge down there. And I have to weed whack wherever the grass can grow in the water. So the value of my property, which corridor says that you need to take care of the residents, keep their properties of value, and mine's washing away down the lake. For many years, we enjoyed the lake, and now we can't have campfires because it's so moist down there. I've lost 3 cedar trees. Fourth one is now on the out, so I'll have to cut that down. The neighbors have noticed that their soil's eroding. I could only imagine what's happening down in Victoria Creek in the south part of Lake Leelanau. So I don't know what had changed between the last 8 or 9 years and last year with the operation of that dam. It seems like there's a underswelling of complaints about the Carp River not being navigatable. And I know there was a whole lot of discussion about the markers weren't correct and everybody got that situated, and that's fine. We're talking about a half an inch or an inch. But looking at the dam and measuring at the level which corridor says, and then saying, hey, we're good, but South Lake's going like this. Those 8 inches higher, 9 inches higher, and I'm not even talking about the 100-year range. Those things happen. But I'm hopeful that there's a policy. When you talk about the policy, I kind of read the agenda and watched the video from the last meeting. I hope that there's some sort of policy that tells Jerry that he can lower that dam to correct the influx of elevated levels on the south lake. I understand that South Lake's always going to be a couple inches higher. That's fine. It's always been that way. But lately, it's been 6, 7, 8 inches higher in between the 100-year range. And I can't enjoy my property. So I'm hopeful that this board will do something. This summer, I'm hopeful will be different than the last summer. And I think even the tail end of 22 was the same way. But I'm hopeful this board will set some sort of policy to trigger the operation of that dam to focus on lowering South Lake, yet maintaining the corridor, which can be done. That Carp River fills up probably within a half hour after Jerry lowers it and raises that dam. So if it's about navigating the Carp River, that's fine. That will quickly fill in. The focus needs to be on South Lake and protecting those properties down there. Not just mine, but all my neighbors. So I'm hopeful this board will set a policy or have something to keep an eye on South Lake and keep it at a respectable level, at least 2 inches within the corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, gets us down to action items number 1. Pat Machin is here, and Pat, you've got the floor. And a little background, Garth and myself, and at one point Don Coppins via phone, we've had 2 meetings basically filling Pat in and from the committee side, just to let him know what we've done and got him the materials that we have seen as an authority with regard to what Don Coppins had provided for us, and along with John Popa. So we, as an authority, wrestled a fair bit with kind of a wish list as to what we felt would be needed for the hydraulic system at the dam control room. Basically, we took the walkway and the roof that had been front burner items and replaced those items with the hydraulic system and moving forward with maintenance on that system for the dam. Been some anxiety with regards to dams over the years with regard to some earthen dam failures in the state. So we wanted to move forward with this. So kind of filled Pat in, and yesterday Garth and I sat and had a meeting with Pat and kind of talked through what he has gone through. He works with Jim Conklin, who has done one inspection for our dam in the past history, is quite expert on dams and does multiple dam safety inspections each year. So he is in the fold with Pat. And they were able to make contact with the company that designed and helped install the system that we have in the dam today. There's not only are they still in business, they were the #1 company that Don Coppins put on his list of companies that were in business in the state of Michigan that could help us with this endeavor. So that all being said, that's kind of background. It tees you up, Pat.
Sure. Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and talk with you. Pat Mashin, with Leland Engineering. In general, our firm has been involved at the dam since roughly 2019. And then as Stephen mentioned, one of our employees that works with us on occasion here, he's also been involved in dam over the years as well too. Our last project that we were involved with was providing a lockout device to meet the OSHA requirement to make sure that we have overall safety for accessing the channel behind the gate. So having said that, we were brought back in here with sharing opportunities for looking at reliability of the system that's currently in place. After many discussions as well, revisiting the dam and meeting with Jerry up there and looking at overall operations and really coming to task on what do we have in place and how has it been and how is it operating. This facility is a very low duty cycle, meaning that in order to operate the dam and the gate, the rams only operate very minorly. And they operate at half pressure. This system is designed for 1,500 PSI. And it operates at 600 PSI. So it operates roughly at about half the capacity we're able to make the gate move up and down. Having said that, we then had a conversation with Michigan Fluid Power. Michigan Fluid Power is the contractor, the supplier that provided the original built skid system, if you will, for the pump and the motors, and all of the miscellaneous piping that feeds the hydraulics. It's quite a simple system as far as it has an operator power pack, it has the lines, and it goes to the 2 cylinders. Low duty cycle, we discussed that information, and the contact there at Michigan Fluid Power was very aware of how things have been operating, very aware of the system. We talked through all of the concerns that were discussed with us and then delivered to us, as mentioned, a report that was completed by a couple of members and Don Coppins. Yesterday, we had a conversation, Mr. Green and Mr. Sensen, and I and Jim yesterday, and talked through this on our findings, basically, and how we feel best that it should move forward to either get repairs or slight modifications. And as it turns out, the system has been operating very well in our opinion. The system will continue to operate very well in our opinion because of the amount of redundancies that are included in the system. The system includes 2 pumps, 2 gear-driven pumps, which according to service providers and manufacturers, these are the highest life cycle pumps that you can get. They're the best because they're the simplest. They're gear-driven pumps, and they apparently they'll last a lifetime, whatever that definition is. It's not like they discussed, that's a 10-year pump or that's a 5-year pump. It's their lifetime. Because the low duty cycle as well, if you remember that term. So having said that, there's 2 of them that operate 2 different cylinders. Well, we operated one of the pumps, can operate both cylinders. However, they move at half speed because they have half the flow. Pressure is fine, everything can operate. You take one cylinder out, one cylinder can operate with one pump, can operate the dam. You combine everything together and that's 7 modes of basically redundancy in the system. Now 7 is quite good. Most operations have 2 or 3. The dam has 7. We can add an 8th using the manual operator that was installed back in 2019. There's a few items in here, what I thought that I would do is just kind of go over just the breadth of the letter and the concerns, and just kind of starting from 1 down to we have 8. The flexible lines could break and cause a mass failure in fluid loss, and then allow the rams to basically lose power and lose pressure and open the gate. The recommendation for that is a very simple recommendation, is to install what's called a dual balance valve on each cylinder. Dual balance valve prevents fluid loss from both sides of the cylinder and keep the cylinder in play, and the gate stays in position. That's with fluid loss, if the line should break. Flexible lines are the most prone to breakage. There's other hard lines in play. Hard lines are considered lifetime lines unless there's external damage to those that occur. One way to increase reliability to the flexible lines is to put new ones in. There's a lot of line there that kind of just strings along and is hanging, if you will, inside the room. The thought is to remove those lines and put shorter lines in, whether that's half the length or that, and then provide attachments to the wall so that they can properly hang there and prevent basically dropping the lines and extra outside forces to the lines, which can cause breakage. Oil leakage at the pump. There is some oil leakage on top of the power unit. That leakage is coming from, believed to be a seal. And seal in and around the manifold and then the gauges. And the response to that basically is remove and replace the pressure gauges and replace the manifold gasket, and then check for additional leaks. The leakage appears to be very minor. However, there is fresh hydraulic oil sitting on top of one of the manifold stems. Provide secondary containment of hydraulic fluid. The thought with that is to replace the current hydraulic fluid with biodegradable hydraulic oil. This is biodegradable hydraulic oil that can go into the waterways and then gets dispersed and is considered biodegradable. This is a common practice nowadays for hydraulic facilities in and around the water sources. So lift bridges, other dams, those types of things, is very common to replace with a compliant biodegradable oil. So then that gets rid of the need for doing secondary containment. Rebuild the cylinders was a concern. Do we rebuild the cylinders? The thought is don't rebuild anything unless it's leaking. Because of low duty cycles on this, there's no observable leakage on the cylinders, on any of the seals. They appear to be in great working order. These cylinders are on the shelf, so they're considered basically a easy remove and replacement. And because the facility can operate with one cylinder, if there's leakage that's observed, then that's a time where you can then take that out of service and then repair it. And they can be repaired in short order. Replacing the cylinder, there was talk of replacing the cylinder and keeping one internally to the operation here locally on the shelf. And the response to that was not recommended to do that because if you have a hydraulic system, a part and piece that has a seal, the seals can dry out if they're not in use. And by the time you go to put it in, if you have to put it in service, it may not operate the way that we would like it to. So again, because the cylinders are considered on the shelf, you can order those and they're, I don't know what the cost is, we didn't get any cost on that, but we're told because it's on the shelf and it's a regular type, it's not unregular, it's not atypical, that they can provide that here. Generally, I think they said we have a 24-hour turnaround time. Replacing the pumps. Again, this is the pumps. These are gear-driven pumps. According to the service provider, just in discussion here, the pumps can be replaced in about 30 minutes with very limited tools. So it's not a high service item. It's not something that requires the whole system to be taken out of service. You can replace one at a time and isolate those. And again, those pumps and the motors themselves are considered on the shelf as well too, same type. One of the discussions was manual operation of the gate. if we were to lose power. And one of the thoughts was get an external power source and be able to basically plug and play, kind of like a generator, plug and play into the system and operate it. We determined that it's not necessary if we can get these, number one, you get the dual actuating valves on there. Those are very simple. And then on top of that, in order to be able to use this manual operator that's there, you can lower it from the ceiling, which is there basically, it's in a nested position and ready. You can hook it up. You can bleed off some of the, by opening one of the fittings and let the hydraulic oil bleed off so that you can then operate the dam using this manual operator. That could be then considered an outside source for operating the gate. That, coupled with 7 different variations for reliability, that provides an 8 redundancy in that system. As we stated, that one pump can operate one cylinder, and one pump can operate both cylinders, but however, at half speed, it does move very slow, but it does move. I think the flow rate that's designed for the system is 3/4 of a gallon a time. So you're not talking about high flow capacity because we do want this gate to move slowly so that we don't have any slamming or hitting or anything like that that's observed. That can cause damage. And that adds to the duty cycle, the high reliability of the system. It moves slow. It doesn't move over a great distance. And then after talking with Michigan Fluid Power and just in general, just discussing what the current system is, the scope of our services was to provide help and assist to provide a specification to go out for bids, to repair or replace or fix portions of the system that need to be replaced. Based on our findings, the items that, in our opinion, that need to be repaired or added or replaced are considered minor to the system, that they're considered on-the-shelf type of things, and that this company has, this is what they do. They are the original service provider to the dam. I think that there were other requests for proposals from them too over the years, just finding, if we need to have replacement of something, is it available and what's the price? And we're talking, I think they mentioned that a pump or a motor costs $250. So we're not talking about high dollar items here. And then the fittings that we're talking about, these, to the term correctly, dual balancing valve. I didn't get a cost on that, but it didn't sound cost prohibitive. It was on the shelf and it's fitting, basically, for a plumbing system. In general, our recommendation is instead of going out for bids, to take this list that we've come up with in addition to numbers and send it to this company and get a price for them. They are, of course, a highly regarded service company here in Michigan. This is exactly what they do. The responses that we got from them were essentially in agreement to the responses that we felt that we should have as part of this. If we were to put this out for bids, and we personally, as our firm, would to complete this task, we would spend the remaining part of our contract, and it would be, in addition to, it would be several $1,000s for us to complete our contract. If we don't complete the rest of our contract because we're not completing a bid specification, that money can then go towards the cost for the repairs, the additions, the service to the dam in whole. So our general opinion is to seek a proposal from them, see what these items would cost, and then make a determination there if we would go sole source to that company.
Richard, under, when you get down to your paragraph, you said, in summary, our work yielded the following minimum. Okay, minimum means this is the least amount that you have to do. What are you leaving off the table?
Well, I'd say,
Because we're going to be back here again if we're just doing minimal. So what else is out there that you're not telling us? It's not in here.
I think
If
that,
there is anything.
I think there really isn't anything.
So the word minimal is,
it probably should be called the following recommended modification.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's nothing out there that,
Probably the only other thing that was probably left off of here, and we discussed that, was that portable power unit that you could put in here. Put in necessary valving, you could plug and play and put an outside power source into here to power the dam, but it just isn't necessary because of the amount of redundancy that's built into the system already. So,
Okay.
and we have an option, if we lost power, you could not bring a generator in here to power the units, we lost hydraulic power, we lost everything. We have a manual operator that's directly connected to the gate and operate it. So, it probably minimum is probably should be.
okay, I just want to be sure that there's nothing left out there.
No, no.
Here's where I'm messed up on process, what I've heard from the board. Who has to award the final contract? It comes back to the Board of Commissioners?
Yes, we do a recommendation
Okay.
to the County Board of Commissioners. And then it goes in front of the county board to listen to what our recommendation would be. I anticipate if that's the case, that we'd be sitting there and Pat would be sitting there and we'd go through this process again with the County Board of Commissioners.
And that's the question I'm asking, that I have no problem with your recommendation, but I just want to make sure we don't go through that and all of a sudden they see the bids or what it is up here and we've already got the price. And what I'm hearing is they need to know about this before we do it, either through a memo or whatever, what we're doing, or somehow another.
Yeah, this is a process, next month we'll go to the county board and basically say what our recommendation would be.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
I'm more worried about the process because I agree with you. I think we ought to try and do that because when it gets said and done, why wouldn't you stick with the firm that has been with you and that knows more about it? But that's your justification.
Right.
And if you have a ballpark of what you think it will all cost
Which
without an
will-
actual price.
We'll have that with us.
Yeah, so.
That's Plan A, yeah.
But I would have that as a ballpark, not have a direct piece of paper before you go really.
We're not
officially
gonna do a bid.
Huh?
We won't have them do a bid.
Yeah,
We're
that's
just
what
gonna
I'm
get
trying to avoid.
We're gonna
is-
get to the ballpark.
And if there's a way that we can have that sooner, and there's a mechanism where we can have sign off before then, I don't know, but I would like to get it done sooner rather than later. If we gotta wait, I don't want to necessarily, hopefully we don't have to wait till May 14th, to start all this. That's in your next, it may have to, I don't know, but if there's some way that I could send it to them, and unless I hear objections, this is how it's gonna go forward, I don't know, I'll just have to work with I'm not either.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
not
want-
sure that's
so.
necessary after talking with Pat and being around the machinery myself, gut level as a farmer, I felt real comfortable with
Okay.
that system
You know
and
more
how
than-
it was operating. And on the farm, I've always said in front of this board and everybody, we fix stuff as need be. And with Don Coppins coming into the fold and living on the lake and worried about the lake disappearing because the dam is open, brought fears from his side of the equation. He spent his career doing these kinds of systems that pound heavily day in and day out, 24/7, large motions, lots of stuff going on, not this minimal thing that we have. So he was saying, you should do this, and and he had a laundry list that he would do from his professional standpoint. So for us on the board, we were getting a little bit anxious, and to say the least, and then so we got moving on this. And now we are here where we are today, realizing that our system is designed and built
Well, I mean,
at a low pressure,
It's
a
a great
minimum
control.
movement. The need to rush and try to get somewhere, I don't feel myself.
okay, I
So I'm
just
thinking,
want to make sure I get your
Yeah, I'm
process.
thinking
Because
the
I agree,
process-
I agree we want to get it done.
yeah, I think I'm feeling good about the process, bringing what we do here today to the County Board of Commissioners next month, I think is a standard procedure that I don't think that's going to hurt anybody. One of the things that I feel really good about is that, we got that mechanical piece in place, and we were discovering that it's extraordinarily difficult or nearly impossible to move the dam with this mechanical thing. And the situation was that we were catching up oil in the system that was pushing back. In other words, we hadn't released the oil pressure to allow the mechanism to function.
All detailed.
So we were thinking, this is going to be really hard. But in reality, the thing that we actually put in place with Pat's company is our final redundancy, and it will function very nicely if we just release the pressure. So, in my mind, we were redundant to start with, and now we've got the ultimate redundancy. We have a mechanical piece that we can do. So anyway, I've hogged a whole bunch of time.
Right. But one thing I would do, if you give the recommendation today, you may also want to put in here, I don't know if you got it that far in here, but 8th level redundancy and all that, but part of that, we'll do a final memo with what you hear today, especially when about biodegradable oil. I don't know if that was, I didn't see that word in, yeah, you did, okay. But I would put in there that the rest of your contract could be, you won't have to do something with the rest of your contract, to develop the bid specs and whatever. That's always another plus of why you just don't need to do that. Plus, you're going to rely upon a company. You have some numbers. Look, it's going to cost less than X amount of thousands of dollars to do this. Why? It's just that justification that goes to them makes, from what I heard from the last 2 meetings, that's kind of what the board is looking for. Give them the justification why you want to waive the bid process.
Right. Yeah, and that was from the discussion that we had just yesterday. That would be great to have information.
Ms. Ross, if I about got it from what I've been hearing too?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're all, but then, especially if it's not an emergency, so we can do it that way. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
Garth.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to compliment Pat and Mission Engineering on the investigation that they did. I think they specifically addressed all of the concerns that I had. So my personal opinion is we're definitely headed down the right track. The one thing I would like to see is, because of the concern I have regarding lack of secondary containment, I would like to see us continue to push ahead as quickly as we can on this to protect the river and also the waters in the harbor. So should there be a failure of a hose or something, we don't get leakage of hydraulic oil. So I know those have been reviewed and there's no apparent problems with them now. I don't want to see this stretch out too long. I'd like to get this work done. And I think using the contractor that did the original work and is intimately familiar with the system makes a lot of sense, because they're aware of all the seals and valves and other pieces of the system that need to be addressed. So I think we'll end up with a more expedient job if we do that.
One more question, Pat. When we go to the biodegradable hydraulic fluid, do we need to replace seals in the cylinders or the pumps or anything in conjunction with that?
That was not made part of that, no. Because if it's in good working order, and it would be oil that would be compliant with the current system. So all of the O-rings, all of the seals, and they do have that compliant oil.
Okay.
So they would just look at doing a good clean flush. You'd have to take the system out of service, of course, in order to do this, but in a timely fashion, they could clean it out, they could flush it, and they could put the oil in.
Okay.
Part of that, in doing that, there'd be the hose replacement, which would be a big part of getting oil out and flushing. We'd have new hoses in, so that's a plus.
Right.
Emma.
I just, seeing this from the county's perspective, it's a huge asset that the county has, and I just think it, again, tells us that going towards maybe a facilities manager or someone with the ability to oversee this. It's very, to me, it's overwhelming. I'm glad you guys are well on track, but just reminds me that we have this, it's a lot for Jerry to be kind of the main guy. So I don't know, I just really I'd like to see us push towards some sort of restructuring of how this dam is managed at the county level with support, more support from a system. Does that make sense? Or yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, it seems like most Antrim County has a similar system, right? Or is that the one that we looked at with the dam? Anyways.
They have two dams.
Yeah.
One's hydro and one is non-hydro.
My concern is we have staff changeover, succession plans and all that, and we have a policy and procedures, but still, someone at the county, overseeing this at a level that's warrants, that is respectful of what this system is all about, so.
And I do agree with, one part of that, of course, is a little bit of training, but one of the things we did talk about too was in case of an emergency, clear heads prevail, of course. And one of the things they have that could be an improvement with some of these additions in here, some of these modifications would be kind of a very simple procedural, this is how this operates in this condition. So if all power is lost and we had to use the manual operator, for instance, there would just be whether it's 3 steps, but here's the 3 steps to go through in order to basically manually operate the system. And it's very simple, and one of the thoughts was, and that's in the letter here, is maybe we handle that with some placards or something along that line that in case of emergency, these are the areas that get exercised or adjusted.
Sounds like.
Anybody else? Yeah, one of the things that when the whole facility manager concept is, I think, an interesting one. And if we entered into that as a county, we probably need a 2-person thing. It's like what the county bumped into when the new departments were made. You need 2 people basically that could function as a CFO. So Deb had to leave because we're searching for an administrator that can do CFO, and the accounting person can do CFO work. So you have 2 people, so no matter which one of those people is vacationing or ill, the other person is there so that the county can function on the financial end. In the clerk's office, there always was that. There were always 2 people that could do that entirely. But that got taken away. So now we have to generate it, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not getting into all of why and where, but that's what we're into. If we go with a facilities manager, we'd have to have a 1 and a 2. Because if that one left or was not anywhere near, then, what would we do? So you'd have to have a 1 and a 2.
Okay.
As it is, we had an engineer hired, a company that was hired that was involved with all of the mechanical and engineering type systems in the building. It was machine engineering. And there was a reason for that. Machine engineering isn't a single thing. Machine engineering is a company. And there's all of the hierarchy in a company like machine engineering automatically understands and is ready to do everything that we need. If we as a county want to hire a facility manager and have him get trained, and then we need a number 2, and they get trained, and then there's turnover.
Okay.
I think we're going down a place where it's going to cost us this, when if we have machine engineering, it's already in place and it's this. Enough said.
Again, I'm going to state the obvious. That's something you're all going to have to deal with going down the road. Right now, I'm just trying to work toward getting what we need to get fixed. That's another discussion that your next manager will be here, and there's going to be budget discussions coming up in the fall and in the spring, so they are in this, later in the summer and the fall, they can start that discussion. So, I mean, it's a good, it's a discussion that I understand needs to be had. This body's not going to be part, that's with your next person, so just keep it there. Okay, while we're talking about the dam, we're here, and because I have another meeting here, have you all seen the report that came in from the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority?
Yes.
You all have seen it, all these items on here that they have said that need to be
Thanks,
addressed.
Pat.
Okay, so who should we be pointing to say, take a look at this? Should we be looking at this body right here to say, well, what about these items? Or do we go to Jerry? Well, let's put this on the agenda for next month. Let's have a discussion on this. If you don't mind, if you haven't seen it on this, if you don't mind, because there are some things about the dam, it's obvious that they are suggesting.
Didn't we already
I think
address all of these?
I think we did. The walkway, are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know what's been done, what hasn't been done. I'm just trying to do the checklist. There's things like the dam control room access door should have a sign posted on the door that reads as follows, or this and that, and card readers and stuff like that. I know Jerry's going through it, and we'll meet later on, probably in this week or early the next week to go through this. I just want to make sure you guys were aware of it.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of that. Card readers wouldn't function. It
doesn't mean you have to.
kind of went through a lot of that.
We did.
And I referenced the walkway when I started. We put walkway down on the back burner and put this number 1 because it was more urgent.
Okay.
So we're kind of clicking our way through that.
Okay.
We've got some signage up that was recommended for risk management. So we covered that base. We went to corporate council to figure out who could and couldn't be on that walkway. And we've got some limitations there. So we've been kind of ticking through those
Okay,
items
just trying to make sure.
as best we can.
Well, good. I'm just going to put a checklist and say done. I'm not going to work with you.
We'll keep risk management, Allison, on action items. We'll just keep it there.
Okay.
And so we have to, it'll force us to keep it in the discussion mode. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Pat, for, anything else for Pat? Are we good on discussion? I guess let's just point discussion a little bit toward what we do with the information we got from Pat as far as possibly making a recommendation to the County Board of Commissioners. What's the feeling in the authority with regard to where we go next with this information?
Well,
Garth?
yeah, I'd suggest that we go ahead and get a cost for doing the proposed work. All of the proposed work that I see from Shin makes sense. The only other additional item, and I don't know if they listed that out as a separate item or not, is explanation of the procedures for the 8 different redundancies that we have, so that if an operator comes in, it's a new operator or somebody that is filling in, they have something that they can refer to.
Right, and we can add that too, and there were a couple of things that Richard suggested that we revise our memo to remove a word and add some additional explanation in there. One thing, just to make sure I understand, is we talked about the ballpark kind of estimate, nothing like that has an invoice number or estimate number assigned to it, but it's kind of back of napkin about what is this going to cost in these items for us to get the Michigan Fluid Power. Is that the desire for us to get? And then
One thing I would like to expedite the whole process is, get us to the ballpark. The County Board of Commissioners can move forward with regard to our recommendation, and they can basically push the go button, and they typically say not to exceed a certain dollar amount.
And that's what I'm looking.
Which is what we did with you, and not to exceed, and you and I chatted just a bit, and we put it at 7,000 because we wanted to move forward, and that did. And just, I mean, you're, say, 4,000 in or something like that, and you're saying, we can save you $3,000 if you take it from this point and go, or whatever the number is, it's not too far from that. However, when we go to the board next month, I would like the RFP or our recommendation to say, if we do this and we go with this, we can do this not to exceed
Yeah.
a certain number.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you want to do enough
it's-
research that you have a high enough number, and I would be wanting to put
It's kind of a quote.
and I would have a contingency in there that the administrator could utilize if necessary. That's how I've seen that the city does it in the other places that I have worked, but you and I could work out how to
It's
say.
basically, it's a opinion of probable cost is what.
Yes, that is exactly it, and then we'll leave a little bit of like a 10% contingency in there if needed. That way, everybody knows what the realm is that we could work in. Is when they get here, all of a sudden, oh, look at here, we better get this while we're here. You don't want to have to come back. So
Yeah,
I'll work with you on that if you want.
And we can pull that together inside of the week.
Yeah, and do that in your final letter to me, and I can write well, she's not here. I can write the EDS overview for the board to do that, if that is your recommendation. But you don't want a formalized cost analysis. You just want enough that the board will say, yes, this makes sense not to go out for bids, and we're asking them not to do it, and here's the whys. And that's what your memo's got to show for us.
We can do that.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm only on my second cup of coffee, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, obviously, the procedures for all the redundancies can be spelled out.
Yeah.
And
But no.
Don was thinking we couldn't do those, and in reality, they're there to do, so that's a huge relief on our part.
To be honest with you, I was trying to keep this to 2 pages because of just trying to.
Oh, right.
No,
Definitely.
Perfect.
We'll jump to we'll add to this additional redundancies in there and just be more formal, not all of you will.
Yeah.
I'll address it to you then, Richard.
Yeah. And if you need me to stop by, you're over on next to Huntington Bank right now, aren't you?
Right, yeah.
I live probably within a 5-minute walk, so I can stop by if you need me. to
We
have a
meet in the
cup.
middle of that down.
You got it. Well, no, we can meet at Starbucks for a cup of
That's
coffee.
even better.
So we can come by if you want me to take a quick look at it before you do and make sure we
That
got
would be
everything, get a draft. If you don't mind, I'll be glad to work with him to get it done.
No,
Okay.
sounds great.
I'm happy to be there and I need to escape somehow or another from my grandkids. But you gotta do the motions and all that stuff. So
Thank you, Richard.
I gotta get in here, so. If you need me, you can call me back out if you want. Okay?
Sure.
Anything else?
Allison can come grab me.
Anything else from the authority? I would entertain a motion.
What do you want the motion to say, to proceed ahead?
Yeah, it would be to proceed, actually, it's a recommendation of the County Board of Commissioners to move forward with the recommendations from Machine Engineering to waive bids, hire Michigan Fluid Power to move forward with the recommendations put forth by Machine Engineering, something like that.
And you wanted a cost?
And provide.
And
we'll
will
in.
provide a cost not to exceed.
I'll make that motion.
Wow. you did
Allison, how did
nice.
did you capture?
I'm gonna reword it, but yes.
Oh, good, okay. So,
I hoped you would.
so we have a motion from Garth,
Support?
support from Kama. Discussion?
One item I'd like to have included is the creation of a placard for the emergency mechanical situation. Include that as, from an engineering standpoint, what should the placard say? Can we do that? Okay.
I don't think that needs to be in the motion. Looks like Pat's going to do it,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion on the motion?
talking.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? So. Richard and I and Pat and Lauren will be writing that up.
Dave.
It's an
Thanks, Pat.
EDS,
Thanks, Pat.
not an RFP, an EDS. I had my acronym wrong. Okay. Gets us, and that, in effect, did replacement chiller and design power units, so those items are off. Sensors and staff gauges, we have a report from Rick.
What we have done over the past month is collect information. John Pope and I spent some time repairing the sensor at the dam, and we found out that the conduit for the sensor itself was broken. There was some stress on the actual cable itself. We pulled everything apart, cleaned it, put it back, secured everything. We didn't glue or cement the conduit. We put screws in so we can still disassemble it. We cleaned the control unit, put new deskant in, and put the system back together. It read fairly well for a few days, but periodically we get readings that make no sense. Without the dam being adjusted, we would see readings that jump up and down. Subsequent to that, I talked to Cal Killen, and he said the life of the sensor is about 10 years, and we're at about 8 years now. During our last meeting, one of the assignments was to get a quote for replacing the sensor. And he came back with a quote from OTT Hydromet, which is his strong recommendation for a replacement. That is $1,445.20, including shipping, I guess without sales tax. Unfortunately, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get delivery. His recommendation is not to use the Campbell unit that we have. Do not buy another one of those. He's not comfortable with recommending that. Absolutely go with the Hydromet. And the other thing that he has recommended is that we replace the processor at the same time. This is the printed circuit board. I don't know all the electronics that are included in that. He would need to be involved to install that. It's basically a plug and play. It's not very complicated. The Hydromet system has a better dispenser, or a control unit, I should say. It can tell you when it's failing. The current system has no mechanism to do that. So if there's an excess moisture, leakage, there are a number of things that the Hydromet unit can do. And he is out of town for a couple of more weeks. He'll be back, I think, by the end of this month at the latest. If we were to order the Hydromet sensor, it'll probably be here about the same time he's available to help us install it. So his recommendation is that's the location that the world looks at from the Lake Association's information. We look at South Lake, we look at the Narrows, but the dam control is really related to that information at the dam. So the recommendation is let's get it on order, get it replaced, and install it, and get some consistent readings.
Did he put a cost on the processor?
He did not. He's going to get that. He has them available. He has some in stock, but he has to go figure out what the value is.
Did he give you a ballpark?
No, did not. I tried to pin him down and he was not pinnable. I said, is it more than $200? And he said, let me find out, let me find out. So I didn't
So,
get,
do we think it's 1,000?
no. I would guess, and that this is just a wild guess, that it's $250, $300. If we put together a motion to spend less than $2,000 to replace the processor and the sensor, I think that would cover it.
That's
And he would do it or you would do it? Or
I'm sorry?
would you replace it or he would replace it
We'll do it together.
together?
We need to help him do some of the mechanics, but he needs to be there to make sure, something as simple as making sure when you plug this processor in, that you get all the grounds connected. It takes a couple of extra hands to make sure that's done correctly. He said some other people try to do it without him, and they did not do it correctly.
So this sensor will be different than the other,
That's correct.
and that's okay?
Yeah, they're all,
It does the
They're
same,
compatible.
does the same function,
Okay.
does the same thing, it's a different company, different make.
Yeah, I just pulled them off.
one other item, Jim Weiser is collecting information at the dam on the staff gauge. He is reading the staff gauge at both the dam and the Narrows. He kayaks back and forth periodically. I need to get him qualified to input the data for the calibration. And I'll work with Cal to do that.
Great.
Was he able to clean the staff gauge at the dam?
John Pope and I spent a lot of monkey business getting that cleaned up. A little embarrassing to tell you how long it took, and two knuckleheads hanging over the wall with a scrub brush and muriatic acid. We were concerned that the acid would damage the staff gauge, but we tested it. It did not. We cleaned it up. It should be fine for months.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, the winter level is hard to read because of the buildup. The summer level was fine, but the winter level was hard to read.
Had the same issue on South Lake. That one I cleaned up by myself, and it's working fine. You can read it.
Narrows or Cedar?
I'm sorry?
At the Narrows? Oh, at the South Lake.
South
We have a
Lake.
staff gauge at the South Lake, yes, yes. Thank you.
That's all.
I would entertain a motion with the phrasing not to exceed 2,000. That's something I can do, that we can do.
And that would include Cal's time?
Yes.
Okay. Seems like a deal. Yeah.
Well, we pay Cal on a yearly basis. We get a bill, and this has been the same bill
It's a retainer of some sort?
forever, yeah.
Forever.
And
4,000?
it's $1,000 twice a year.
Yeah. But this may be above that, no? Or,
This is above and beyond.
yeah, okay.
The $1,000 just gets all of his upgrade expertise and continual upgrading of the software and the hardware both. It's his business, and he has a person with him now, but he's doing it for fun.
Yes.
He gets that silly grin on his face when the hardware comes out, so, but anyway. So I'd entertain a motion.
So moved, do I have to repeat it, or no? Or you can do it?
I move that we approve the expenditure up to $2,000 to replace the processor and the sensor for the electronic gauge at the dam.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Before we leave, well, we can do it on item 5. Okay. Anything else for sensors and staff gauge? Thanks to the report. It's excellent. I have a question. So we are going to be feeding Cal regular data again this season? Is that part of the deal with regard to confidence in sensor readings? Is that, or how are we moving forward, I guess?
He has access to our data. All the data that we're collecting goes into the calibration chart, both the actual readings and the chart. It ends up on the chart. He gets that at his leisure whenever he wants to look at it. If we see a fluctuation or anything that looks out of the ordinary, I call him or Dave Fisher or the two of them, and we try to understand. They had an electronic calculation. The quadratic formula was used to make an adjustment by somebody, not me, but one of those two guys. They couldn't remember. We troubleshooted the situation where the data on the chart didn't match the actual numbers that we put in, the staff gauge numbers. They didn't come out in the right spot on the chart. Between the three of us, I didn't sort it out. They agreed that they had made a mistake and they corrected the quadratic formula that they were using. So the other thing that I think I understand correctly, if we see any one of the three locations, the electronic gauge varying, we have to either explain why we think that's accurate or do an adjustment. And the education that I've been given from those two gentlemen is that periodically the electronic sensors can drift. The Campbells that we currently have are more prone to that than the Hydromet. So if we replace the other two sensors at some point in the future, those problems probably will be reduced. They have the ability to bring the data down to match the staff gauge readings, so they can adjust over the internet. They can adjust the electronic sensors to agree with the staff gauge readings.
The procedure is that on a given day that is calm with no pressure variables and wind variables, theoretically on any given day like that, we can get a reading from all three locations. There's a staff gauge at all three locations. The staff gauge can be read on those given days, so we have data for a given day, and it goes out on a regular basis to the data bank. And in essence, what we are doing is we're saying, okay, this is reality. This is what the staff gauge reads. This is where the water is on a calm day on this day. And we get three readings on those days on a regular basis so that we can have confidence in what we're looking at on the computer.
Correct.
Right now, today, yesterday, Earth and I pulled it up. There have been comments on Facebook, social media, and so we looked at it, and for like 2.5 weeks prior to Jerry's initiation of buildup, there was a real steady state. The dam and the narrows were almost exactly the same. South Lake was about 2.4 inches up from those two. So, and that was a steady state over 3 weeks. It looked, from my perspective, I loved the way it looked. What's our confidence level of those three sensors at this point in time with those readings?
I wouldn't want to pick a number, but I would say we're very confident that they're accurate at this point. One of the questions that comes up, does anybody bump into the gauges, the staff gauges? Does anybody do anything with those gauges? I inspected the one at South Lake and at the Narrows. I didn't find footprints or anything that and they're well secured. So I think we're safe. The readings appear to be accurate. High confidence. The dam gauge works fine for a while, and then it doesn't look quite so good. It does jump around. I looked at when we had the wind the last few days, I looked at South Lake, and the winds were coming out of the north-northwest and then out of the west. They swirled around. And the readings on that electronic gauge went up and down just as we would expect. So very confident.
Appreciate that. And so as we're looking at the gauges, at the gauge readings on the computer, realize that we are, thanks to Rick and volunteers from
The Lake
the Lake
Association.
Association, getting readings so we can maintain our confidence in what we're seeing in the computer. Jerry, can you come up and just kind of explain where we are, where we're heading, and your thought process and what you did when?
Thursday, I started to raise the lake level a little bit, bump it up, and so this morning, the east wind we got, pushing pretty hard. We're at 8.8 at this point in time. We're 3-4 inches under the summer level right now. Still have to go down and raise the gate up and grease it in season, trim the canoes, and right now it fluctuates in the tube right now with the wind. But we have a little bit of water going over the top, and we don't have a lot of runoff except from the South Lake. And whatever we get fed, I mean, when it's from the creeks, we don't have a lot of supply, so to speak. And the court order, vague, but, on or about the April 15th is when, start to raise the lake. I'm not worried about it till May. Right now we can play with it, go easy, but she's coming up. So it's pretty much the same thing every year. I don't like to just shut it off and try to raise it immediately because what for?
Exactly.
You go slow. And, we didn't get a whole lot of rain last night, so just got a lot of wind. We didn't get inches. So right now we're on manual, and I'm just keeping an eye on it each day without checking. And we do have some flow going over the top. That's pretty much everything that's going on right now.
Yeah,
It's
so,
not automatic. I don't go automatic because there's no reason to.
right.
We don't have the water supply, so what I'm saying is if I try to set it at 8 feet, 8 inches, or 7, and wind, whatever, it's gonna demand, if you want, it's gonna demand, it's not automatic, the sensor's gonna demand, well, we gotta raise the gate, raise the gate, raise the gate, until I get my 8 feet, 8 inches, or 8 feet, 9 inches, because I wanna get to that 9.1, eventually, which is what you guys want to do, that halfway point between max and minimum for summertime. But right now, we're doing okay. We got water, and we'll be okay. It takes time.
Is it fair to say that we're 3 to 5 days from hitting the minimum summer level?
No. With the weather's been very.
Okay.
I mean, when this wind dies down, east wind dies down, it's been shoving everything, towards the Leland River, the Leelanau, dies down, and see where we're at. The indicator, maybe it's gonna go back down to 8.7 for all I know.
Okay.
86, I don't, so that's why I'm saying, that's why I raised it. I got close to April 15th for that, 2 days before, and to at least get started. To bring it up to, people want to say, well, April 15th, no, it's it's a target, it's an area, there's play on both sides of it. It's not gonna happen right there, right now. It never has been that way. We foolishly try to do that. Nobody's got waters in right now. Some years, as you know, we have ice into May.
Yeah, yeah, on that point, we were very lucky that Jerry was able to, on or about the 8th, start our pickup and get water into the system. Driest spring on record, basically. No snow melt, no rain. Luckily, Lake Leelanau has a river and a plethora of streams and springs to pump water into the system. So we are raising, we're more than halfway there, and the only reason we're that high is because Jerry was able to pull it up and start bringing it up because there was no ice. The other dry year that's not so far back in my memory, we had ice. So not only did we have a dry spring and no moisture, we had ice. So by the time Jerry was able to start bringing it up, we were way past the 15th. We were into May, and we did not have summer level because of the dryness. So, and an explanation of what Jerry just said, there's a little water going over the dam. Not much, just a bit, other than having it completely shut off. So we're within, I don't know how much water, a very small amount of water physically is going over the dam rather than have it completely shut off. It's just a common sense thing. We're not delaying the summer level by more than a few hours per se, or whatever it would be.
Changes fast.
Yeah, so we're more than halfway there, and we'll get there, like Jerry says, depending on Mother Nature.
You can still run a canoe around the lake, so we're good. We can't, we get a little.
Yeah. Any questions for Jerry while he's at the desk?
I just wondered if you're fielding a lot of questions or concerns from the South Lake.
Biggest concern is, the water. Takes time to get through. They have people complaining, or there's issues with water seems high, and of course it is. But to rectify that means we have to, the issue, as we all know, is where is the lake level? Where do you read it to actually get the lake level? And for interpretation and whatnot, you go back to the Leland Dam. To me, the dam is what is the adjustment. The lake is out in the lake someplace. And where is that happy medium? I used to carry it an inch under. I used to carry it lower for years, for decades, an inch under the 9-foot mark, at 8, 9, call it 8, 9, because it worked for everybody, pretty much. It wasn't the perfect height, but corridor-wise, but I tried to keep it just below the corridor because it worked for the Leland River, Lake Leelanau, and the south. It was down, at least, and we had that cushion if we did get a storm. But because the focus became, okay, what's the corridor state interpretation, and we had to jump back into that court order. I was taught 40 years ago that you have to carry it at 9 or just a tad under to make it work. That was a given. That's what I was taught, and that's what worked. Some people didn't like it but some people want beach up front of their house, and other people want the water up to their doorstep because of their boat. That's just a given. I grew up in that way. I understand hoist and docks, but Asian milfoil. You know, more people build on places they didn't, and it's bringing in the stuff from the shore, goes into the lake, and the milfoil, never had it when I was little, but, you know, that's just the way it goes, progression, but we all know that, but it's real frustrating trying to 20-some miles of lake, that's a lot of lake going into a bottleneck, you know, so it's been a challenge, but a good challenge. People understand it, some don't. They like to put things on Facebook, and you know, you can't fix stupid. That's all I know. But people have questions. They've always been kind enough to ask me instead of taking a shot in the dark and walking away. That's just But we're trying to maintain, which I am maintaining, the court order when the time comes. So. We have to work with it, and if people want to make changes, and that's where we all go back to the courts and request a change. But then there's a lot of studies and things, and I don't know if there's a real answer to pinpoint with your sensors that you put in, and it's been a big help in understanding what's going on more than just the surface. And eventually that's all come together better as time goes on. I'm belaboring this, but it's we're trying to get to where we need to be, because people see just the height of the water. They don't understand what's underneath either, but that visual thing is a big deal. So we're getting it.
Thank you.
And we'll be fine. Yeah, the Salt Lake is always been a big concern. It's a hard one to work with.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, one more thing. I have information downstairs. I use AW46 hydraulic oil at the dam, and I'm looking at the bio stuff. Came across the 5-gallon pail is like $175. And I use 30 gallons. That's what it takes when I change out the oil and filter out the pump, hydraulic pump. So we make that change. We have to, of course, flush the system. You guys know more about it than I do, but in general, there is a product out there, which Pat was talking about. And that's the number on that for 5 gallons, at least these people.
Perfect.
And yes,
I think that's it.
I think that covers the base on everything. And you did agree for me to go ahead and get the PLC order.
Thank you for mentioning that. We had a failure in the control box, the electronic control box. And Jerry called, yeah, and we had the option of replacing what we have for
A new one upgrade.
1,100, and then,
Well, no.
and then the upgrade
new
is,
system was about 5,000.
yeah. So,
But to replace what we had existing, we would find a PLC or 17 for him to do it.
and so he
Or
put,
to have one on the shelf.
he put that in. So, at that point in time, we didn't have a meeting scheduled, we had a failure at the dam. So Jerry and I chatted, and I said, well, the one that's less than $2,000 we can do, we should have something working at the dam right now. So that got installed. So the dam is functional, the automatic is functional with that unit. The question is, should we have another one on the shelf or not? Or should we do the upgrade or not? And I guess it's functional right now, it's cruising,
Yeah,
right?
it's working, but you can get one the same kind and then program it. We'll have it on the shelf, so if it's come down, we can put it in, but right now, this PLC, it's only, 3x3 box, it's not real big, but he has to program it, but we can get one exactly what we have. It costs us $1,700 some dollars.
And then he would program it, and then it'd be on the shelf.
It'll be on the shelf, and because to put a new one in that's the latest and the greatest, that's only $5,000. It's like, I don't think we need that person. That's a lot of money for
And with this one, we can do quarter-inch adjustments, correct?
But we don't have a backup, that's what we're looking at.
And it took a little bit of time we had to go manual, and it took him a couple, 3 weeks to get that.
Yeah.
So I guess that would mean if during the season when we needed some manipulation happening, we'd be manual anyway, but when we would like to be automatic, if that piece went out, we would have to wait 3 weeks, and that would be a tough situation for whoever's manipulating the dam. Rather than automatic, we'd have to be down back and forth and back and forth. So I guess the question would be whether we should have that unit and have it programmed and have it on the shelf or not.
Steve, Jerry, how long did that unit last? What's the reliability of it?
That was basically the original unit. That's
Oh,
small.
wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
the original one, 05. We had some issues with the battery and some other things, but that's the original.
That's pretty good.
Really good.
For what we need, it'd be great for us to have that back. In case things do change down the road. You know,
And that's in our budget, it doesn't, I mean, we just,
Yeah, the budget.
what,
So.
that's a maintenance thing, or is it a?
Yeah, I mean, basically,
to repair maintenance.
Um, what I submitted, the respectfully submitted request was for $86,000. And, oops. They gave us 20, in essence. But basically the same as the previous year. There we go. Yeah.
What's that?
And they gave us 20,000 instead of 86,000, but they knew these items were coming. And there's a mechanism that the county department has to, basically, if we need something, we wouldn't come to ask them if we didn't actually need it, and that's something we have to do with the dam, and then the county board would okay it. I mean, they're on notice that we've got stuff coming down, and they're just not putting it in the agenda or in the budget. And I don't have any problem going ahead and doing this stuff and letting them know that this is coming down. I'll sign. If it's less than 2,000, I can sign it. If it's more than that, we go to the county board. Again, or 5,000 rather, I'm sorry. So, this would be something we could do.
So do we need a motion, or no?
I'd entertain a motion.
Go for it.
I move that we purchase a replacement PLC as soon as possible. Do we need a not-to-exceed price or just buy it?
The quote was like 17.
Yeah, not to exceed 2,000.
Not to exceed $2,000.
Support.
Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Okay, thanks for mentioning that,
Thanks,
Jerry.
Jerry.
I'll make a phone call to him right now.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, it gets us down to procedures. In the manual and where we are with that, we've kind of gone with repair of the hydraulic and basically we had a piece of paper in front of us last go, and I said, well, let's keep thinking and doing with regard to procedure manual, and we are quite a ways along with that document. I guess my comment last time was look at it and bring any comments forward. Um, What I would like to do as we're thinking about that manual and the things we're doing, we've gone through a lot of what Jerry does and what we do, and what we're bumping up against is the summer season. And last year, in the previous year, we came to realize that with narrows gauge being set too low, we were in essence carrying a little under the court order. And so last year, we carried near the top of the 2-inch window that we're allowed. It's court order summer level minus 2 inches. We carried very close to the top of that 2-inch window. And we did that through, I forget which meeting, and we decided, let's go with the mid-range and do that for the duration. So we were at the top and we're at the mid-range. We did both of those. With the realization that we'd be at this point in time to decide what we're going to do for this summer season. So I guess in my mind, that would be the discussion we should have at this point.
I have a comment or suggestion. I would suggest we consider going on the lower end out of concern for the folks on South Lake and see if that helps at least a little bit. Because I think what we're dealing with is a certain much smaller number of people concerned about boating versus property values of many hundreds of people potentially. And I think the property values would take precedence over being able to navigate the river, if yet we would still be within court order.
I wrote up a little 4-sentence or 4-paragraph lead into the operation of the dam, and I'll pass these down. My recommendation, thank you. The wording that I used, I said during significant weather events, the water level at the dam shall be adjusted near the low end of the 2-inch range to allow for anticipated increased future flow, and then refer to the actual dam operating procedure. I've heard from a number of people on South Lake that they'd like us to go below the court order because of the lag factor of getting water from South Lake and parts of North Lake, but mostly South Lake, through the river and out to Lake Michigan in a timely fashion. I don't think anybody's going to come up with a perfect solution, but during a significant weather event, let's bring it down to the low level. Do we want it mid-range or lower before that? I don't have a strong feeling about that.
I mean, I think that the North Lake is fine under either condition, whether it's on the high end or the low end or in the middle. I believe the north end is not going to sustain much shoreline damage, frankly, other than from wakeboard boats. That's all I see, right? But with the South Lake, if the water is causing consistent problems, and I think we all know there's other factors. The Cedar River's not, could have sediment problems, and there's things that are out of our control, but I just think that, again, in my mind, as long as the river is still navigable and we're still within the court order, that we might want to at least consider the lower end for the sake of folks. I just think there's been a kind of a large outcry from the public.
I guess, from my opinion, as long as we're within the court order, if it's the desire of the riparians on the lake to keep it towards the lower level of the legal limit, I'm okay with that.
Is there any negative to have the water level at the dam at the low end of the court order?
The only negative would be a potential of level in the river per se, that we've heard at a certain point in time. Now, the river people that were here and voicing their concern brought us to the realization that we were actually carrying a little bit lower than the low level.
Yeah.
So in my mind, being at the low level is the premium spot to be. We've got a little bit of catch there that we can catch an event and get back to that low point relatively quickly, and it gives relief to the south end as much as we can within the court order.
I agree with all that, but I still think that we have some education that we maybe could help facilitate for people to understand the hydraulic system as a whole. And I would really appreciate if we would entertain having some experts explain in an article in the paper, maybe in conjunction with what the Leelanau Lake Association wants to do, to just kind of provide more information that people can understand our position and how the system works. So, it's all about education for me.
And I appreciate you adding number 7, Kama, because we'll hit it hard when we get there, and I think that'll fit right in there.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that as long as we are educating along the way. When we make a decision like this, that it's based on facts and of the best information out there for us to choose. So do we need a motion that,
I would entertain a motion for summer level.
Rick, we're just looking at you, you're so good at it.
Let me look at the chart. 589, I've got to look at it again.
Oh, the real numbers,
Yeah,
do you have them?
oh, I do.
589.21.
I just printed out what Jerry has right now.
Summer level.
Summer level should be 589.2 minus, plus 0 minus 2.
Yeah, it's 2-1.
So 2-1, so I move that we attempt to hold the dam water level at 589. Should we make it 0.1?
0.21 minus 2 inches.
Yeah, that's
We're mixing metaphors.
Yeah.
The court order is intense. The judge used inches.
I know.
So what we need to do, what it has to say is 589.21 minus 2 inches as per court order.
Well, 589.01 would put us at the bottom.
But the court order reads that, so there's
I think
some
we should
confusion
I
there.
think we should quote the court order because that'll come
I
up.
do too. It will. The people on the river, yeah.
But we're just picking a target level, right?
But I think we need to word it so it's in agreement with the court
Yeah,
order.
this is the summer target level for this summer.
589.21 minus 2.
Perfect. 2 inches. Makes sense. Is that good, Allison?
Yep.
We have a motion.
Support.
We have support. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
I have it.
Oh. Sorry.
Putting on my engineer's hat, 2 inches is actually 0.17 feet. So we should specify, was it 9.21?
589.21.
Would be 589.04, would be 2 inches below.
589
That is just so.
589.04,
That's 2 inches below.
which would,
Something.
and Allison, at the end of the motion, which would equate to 589.04. That would be an addition to the motion. Is that okay with?
Yes.
So not only do we have the court order in there, but we have the actual tenths.
That are more understandable.
I like it, I like it. So we have a new motion. Is it okay with the
Support,
support?
yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I.
All those opposed, the same. Okay, we have a summer level. Yay. One thing that I think we'll bring this back next time because I think the procedural manual will be in motion next time too. I want people to really think closely about all of the things that we need to add to it. We had some procedures that we talked about today, which I think will be outstanding and valuable. When do we dump?
Say that again?
When do we dump?
When do we dump? In other words, I'm the dam operator, and we have a 6-inch rain that hits the whole works. It's not an automatic. We don't try to be at the low level. We open it up.
Yeah.
And we let water out. In essence, we dump an enormous amount of water because we know if we're on automatic or if we're at that lower level, it would take a month to dump that water out of the system. So it's our job, it's our responsibility as a dam operator to get that puppy open. Last year, we had a significant event. Dwayne ran down. Jerry was on his way here from Grand Rapids where he was at the doctor's. And Dwayne says, yeah, it's open a lot. It's really, of course, the automatic would open it to the point where the level would be where we want it. So the auto was dumping a lot of water. And eventually, it would work. But Jerry got there, he knew how much water was in the system. And he knew that it would take an enormous amount of time for that south end and the rest to catch up and be court order. So he opened it up, maybe twice or more than the automatic had. He went manual and opened it up. He dumped water. So when do we dump water becomes a question, and it's important for the south enders as well as anybody. And we, over the last 2 seasons, have been more really trying to keep the dam here as much as we can because that's what the court order says we should do. However, when do we dump water? Logically, according to what we need to do as dam operators, when do we actually do that? So we know in the big events we do it.
Yep.
And then the pretty darn big events we do it. But should we be dumping a little more water with what kind of event? In other words, we got a bunch of water in the system. How much do we dump and when do we dump? That we get a big rain. South end is 3/4 of our watershed. When we get a big dump down there, it takes a certain amount of time for that whole system to funnel the water to the south end. So the south end is getting a lot of input over the span of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, for that 5-incher that we had in maybe 2 hours to get all the way into South Lake. So, we can dump some and then we go back to this and they're still getting water, so I guess think about that between now and next meeting. We are on a system that Jerry uses, and he has a lot of experience. He opened it up. Dwayne didn't know that he could or should. So we need to kind of get that into our procedures, maybe a little more analytically, because we need to transfer what gut level we know we need to do to make the system functional. Um, It needs to get written somewhere. And I just, I don't know. Any thoughts before we put that one to bed?
You wanted to read in this document, right? Is that what you're saying?
We need to put our arms around it. We probably wouldn't be able to make a chart that's this big
Would
and
be so many
say
variables.
this, you know, I mean, it probably wouldn't be highly granular. It would be just sort of granular. We need to get it away from gut level. I know we need to do this to,
Yeah.
gosh, you know, here it is. We just had 4 inches of rain in 12 hours, and the south end got hit with it for sure. How much water? Do we leave it on automatic, or do we dump water today, or do we wait 2 days and dump water, or do we, you know, just, we have to kind of think about that, and we'll pick Jerry's brain more fully to try to get that one. I think we really need that one in because it's not in the court order. It's in reality.
We actually have to violate the court order to protect the riparians,
I'm not so sure we're violating the court order.
or we would drop the level at the dam below the low limit.
Yeah.
We're not measuring. We're dumping.
Okay.
But that gauge will read.
Well, but the language says maintain, and maintain indicates to maintain it, you have to
We're maintaining the lake
go.
level,
Yeah.
and we aren't, when we're dumping water, we can't be measuring. Because when we dump water, it's below the measure that we're using to measure.
So,
So physically, if we're dumping water, we're not measuring. If we want to measure, we have to do something different.
yeah.
So if you want us to measure, we can measure, but we're dumping water right now. We're going to wait 7 days and then we'll measure, because we have to dump water.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's the common, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the common sense part of it. But I think from the technical perspective, if I were to go to court and be put under oath and we were dumping and the level was below the
Because we needed to
level,
dump.
because we needed to dump, I would still have to say, yeah, technically we're not in compliance.
That's not, you're not the attorney, and you're not the judge.
I'm not, but I could be the expert witness.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed when we're dumping a lot of water, the curl at the staff gauge, this amount of water that's flowing over the dam, there's a difference based on where the staff gauge is located and where the electronic sensor is. That
Totally.
distance
Yeah.
matters.
Cal can give you the exact, John at,
Yep, the curvature is a function of how much water is going over the dam.
exactly. And they've worked through it at Glen Lake, and that those, you probably have the formulas with you too. I mean, but they've done that for the dam at Glen Lake, and those same formulas can be attached to this one. There is a difference, you're right.
The unfortunate thing is that our electronic sensor would show that we were below the limit. It records it.
There's the fact right there.
I don't erase it, I can't eliminate it. So for the general public, they would say we're below the court order.
And they would be correct according to the sensor, and we would retort that we had to dump water, and we'd be correct as to what we have to do as dam operators.
Correct.
And, you know, other than going to court, you know, I mean, it's an understanding of something that we have to do, and I think we should get our arms around it and make sure that it's there so the dam operator can do it. If somebody's going to take us to court and suing us for doing the right thing, then that would probably open up the whole thing again. Once you open up a court order, then it could end up in interesting places. It's a process that's difficult at best, and I've been trying to avoid the thought of doing that. But, I mean, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I think we all recognize that if we need to dump because of a exceptional rainfall, we recognize that we're going to be below the court order and have to discharge that water in a reasonable length of time. And I think we just have to acknowledge that.
That's what I'm saying. We acknowledge it, we put it in paper, and we make sure our operator knows how and when to do it. And if it's something that, that technically we can't do, then I think that would probably open up the whole concept of what we're doing again.
Yeah, if for some reason, whether it's under advice of council or whatever, they say we can't operate that way, then I think the other option is to go back to the court
Yeah,
and
I
say
think-
we need to,
Yeah,
we need to clarify or revise the court order to provide for these kinds of conditions, because the court order doesn't take into account, you can have 100-year rainfall. I mean, that wasn't a consideration in the court order.
Yeah,
This-
go ahead.
This document, do we have a kind of a goal that we'd like to see it go out of draft and become more firm? I mean,
I'd like next meeting, we just get at it. Now that we've gotten past the hydraulics,
can we,
next meeting, let's put that at the top of the list so we can get that hammered.
I think it's time, yeah, unless there's something big piece that we still can't.
We need some wording so the operator knows tentatively or at least qualitatively what to do when.
Yeah, it might be a two-phase dock. The first cover gives the generalities, and the second gives the specifics. Third gives the exceptions. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Would it be possible to, over the next few rain events, knowing how much rain we received, then track the amount of time it took for the South Lake to get back to normal level in order to fine tune these different actions? So, if it took 48 hours after a 2-inch rain, once we were at level, and then we said, okay, now we know that scenario. It probably varies with the wind and different factors, but then with a 4-inch or a 6-inch over X amount of time, I guess that's the variable, is that it's over how much time, right?
Yeah.
And so no matter what, you're coming down to a somewhat of a gut, I mean, based on experience.
Yeah,
And
you can do that, I mean, because the hydraulics are sort of fixed, and we've got a fixed watershed.
yeah,
Hydrologically, you can sort of calculate the amount of runoff that comes from a certain size rainfall. We would have to know what the dam elevation was set at, and the elevations at the dam in fairly good detail, so we could calculate how much water was being discharged through the dam. Given that information, yeah, we could do it.
One of the comments from Cal and Dave Fisher, that they work with Traverse Lake, Glen Lake, several others. Lake Leelanau presents a particular problem in doing that calculation because of the length of the lake. We can have a rainstorm, particularly on the south end, which they believe happens more often than the North Lake. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have the same impression with no real data. The length of the lake complicates how the water gets to the dam. A heavy rainfall on North Lake doesn't seem to be as critical as South Lake. But here again, I don't know that I have much confidence in their theoretical information.
Well, I think there's probably some truth to that, because the watershed goes to Cedar Lake, just
Yeah.
off Long Lake. It's a long ways away. It takes hours, several hours for the water that falls on near Cedar Lake to run down this, Cedar River through, into the lake, into the south end and then through the Narrows to the north end. So there's a long time lag there. And I haven't looked at any, objective information, but I think I live just off the south end of Lake Leelanau, a little ways. And I know in terms of snowfall, because of lake effect, we get more snow there maybe than Leelanau gets. So whether that leads me to believe that the rainfalls are similar, maybe, I don't know.
That's what I've been told. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either. Well,
Yeah, I just made a note. I'm gonna tell Jerry wasn't here, I'm gonna tell him what the summer level is. But one factoid that we might not be gathering is when are we on auto and when are we on manual?
I don't know.
So, and then I think next time if you bring, whatever the time frame is. Allison, do we have our next meeting set?
we don't.
Why?
We have to pick it.
You're looking the wrong way.
Okay, before we leave, we need to set our next meeting date. But, I mean, Rick, maybe next time that time span and maybe have 3 of those readings and then mark them up as to this gate. The sensor is weird here, but I mean, if you bring a history of the sensor readings for us to look at in front of us, and then if I can get Jerry to say, when were you on auto, when were you on manual, and why,
I can do a week and a month.
let's do that. And then I want to try to get to where Drew was with that comment. I think it's good. I mean, that's kind of what we're going to be doing next time is trying to put in writing what we do when. And we'll have Jerry here to pick his brain and keep him from wandering verbally, but try to get an idea. And I'm not sure if he's recording when he goes auto or manual, but that would be wonderful if he was.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he can from now on, that'll help. But we can, have that stretch of time, and then he'll be here looking over at it and can say, I did this, I did this, I did this. And we can always update the procedural manual as we move forward. Anyway, if we can link physical events with what Jerry did, and I think that'll help us. Maybe we should set that meeting date right now.
In May, you're thinking?
Okay, we are, let's let the county board do their stuff, which will get us May 15th-ish. That seems about right, a month out. Or is there any reason we shouldn't go longer than that or short? No, I don't think we should go shorter for sure, but should we go longer than that, or does that make sense? Or should we get
I think.
22nd? Should we get out a little farther?
22nd is better for me.
Same here.
Okay, let's
10 a.m.
does that work?
If the room's available. We're gonna...
I'll have to double check. I can't get into it here for some reason. You can tentatively set it for the 22nd, and I'll just get with
Okay,
you to make sure.
alternate to
Check it after
29th,
this.
22nd, alternate to 29th. Okay. All right. Miscellaneous report, the only thing I have is this, and it came up, if it's okay, are we good there? Do you have a date? Okay to move?
Mm-hmm.
There is a little tiny piece of land that is owned by the county. It's at the dam, it's on the Falling Waters Lodge side. And if you're at the dam and you walk alongside the dam to where the staff gauge is, that's on a cement abutment and a sheet pile. Right at the end of the cement abutment sheet pile, there's a little wooden pile, retaining wall that goes around a little piece of property that's sitting there, and it's in all of our dam reports. It's eroding, it's coming apart.
Yikes.
The property belongs to us. The Emmeline Cooper Heston, who owned Falling Waters Lodge, would like to own that piece of property. They are suggesting that we quit claim deed it to them. I'm suggesting maybe sell it to them for $1, one of the two. It's a little tiny piece, 116.6 square feet.
Oh my gosh.
Why was it ever retained, I wonder?
There's a whole history of it's this little tiny piece of ground there.
Huh.
Just a little tiny piece of ground. There's the cement, there's the staff gauge, there's the dam. That's a little tiny piece right there. And that, that line that goes across is from history. It's from the original plats that were put together in Leland back at the turn of the century. So Nick Onan and Tim Onan have the history of that, and they wrap their hands completely around it. And I think at this point in time, I'd like to present this maybe to Richard or maybe the next person and try to move forward. And they would take this and they would repair that. And there's absolutely no reason for us to have 116 square feet.
That would have to be the county board of commissioners.
We would have, there's a whole procedure. And we'd have to, I can see myself sitting down with Jennifer of the Register of Deeds, having Nick and or Tim going through all of these things to see if it syncs with what we have on the records there. And then if that's the case, then corporate counsel is going to have to weigh in. You know, but if I had permission just to start the ball rolling.
I just know Richard isn't in a position to have any time to do this, so yeah. I mean,
So it's a slow roll.
I think so. I don't
Okay.
think we want to add this to his.
Let's not put it on Richard's plate.
But can you respond to that, to the Falling Waters Lodge?
Yeah,
That
this
we're
was
looking that we'd like
yeah,
to do this?
I can
We'd
do
like to
that.
put it off until.
Yeah,
maybe
I can do
the
that.
fall or
This isn't
something.
even signed by them, and Tim just sent it to me a few weeks ago. That's Tim Onan. By the way, Tim Onan is running for Drain Commission. He is very qualified, and I am very relieved.
The fact that it's falling apart, then the Falling Waters Lodge would make.
They are in a position to, they're working with Richard Baldwin, who is a builder, a really good guy, and he's willing to work with them and go for grants to help them get monies to fix it.
So it sounds like we want to make sure it's theirs before it falls apart. But
Yeah, it's
not
in
that
all,
eminent,
it's in
is
all
it?
of our dam reports. They see it and they mention it. It isn't absolutely functional for us to be concerned about, but there could be debris and sand and sediment flowing over the dam
Sure.
from there. I mean, we get that anyway, but I mean, it's an issue. I'll respond and let them know that we're gonna get it rolling, and I'll bring it more formally for you as we move forward.
Excellent.
That's it. We're down to social media. And we have a document that Rick wants us to take a peek at, which we're through. Sorry this is running so late.
I penned this couple of paragraphs in response to a request from the Lake Association to put an article in their next newsletter that indicates who's responsible for maintaining the lake level. And I said, well, I'll write it, I'll present it to the dam board. If everybody is in agreement that it can go into their newsletter, fine. If you want to modify it, if we decide to modify it, that's fine. If we don't like it, that's another issue.
It's authority.
Yeah, instead of board.
Yeah, we're an authority.
So your intent with this, Rick, is to put it in your newsletter.
Correct.
I think this is basically the information that we need to get out to someone who doesn't receive your newsletter too. I mean, I would
Put it on the website.
put it on our website and possibly a news release in the Enterprise would be appropriate. I think also, I think we've talked about this before, but when we do get a new county website, which we're not holding our breath, but it's imminent, of course, I think we need to have that same information that you have on your website, on our county website too, right? Is that, hopefully, I'm gonna make sure that happens.
We could do a link.
Or a link.
Because your website's open to the public.
Yes.
Yeah, so we could do.
Why, it's our
could do the link.
dam, why aren't we showing that information on our website if it's our dam? That
Well, we
doesn't
would
make
have,
sense to me.
we would, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I propose that Kim and Rick put their heads together and move forward with social media / news that will help people understand what we're doing.
And this really doesn't talk about the watershed system, and I know it's really complex, and to try to narrow it down to some information that could go in a news release is hard, but
That's a good point. I don't think the enterprise will do this whole thing, but this would be the starting piece. And then next meeting, maybe you two could formulate the steps that we need to do to bring information out to the public and onto the websites and whatever it is we need to do. If you formulate the steps, then we can, as an authority, say, go ahead and do this, go ahead and do that. Then it's kind of following procedure, and you've kind of checked with the group to make sure that the group thinks that direction is good, and we could tweak it if we want or not. Just trying to get a procedure together to move forward, but if you two take this,
Mhm.
we could, I'd entertain a motion to get this out officially.
In that,
Through the Lake Association or?
The Lake Association is going to do it no matter what, but I mean, it would be.
well, you wanted our blessing with it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And
I think this is great.
I think so too.
Okay, and you changed the board in the fourth paragraph to authority.
And in the last paragraph.
Yeah, and then at the next sentence after in that fourth paragraph, we say a specific county employee. That sounds kind of weird to me. Could we say maintenance? I don't know. Or we can even
It's a person
name-
that's assigned to do it.
A specific,
I didn't want to name an individual.
I guess, but a
But he-
specific county employee. I mean, it's a,
An assigned instead of specific.
Okay,
It's an
yeah.
assigned county employee.
thank you. That just sounds kind of,
Okay. Okay. We'll put our heads together. One of my thoughts about putting information out to the public, a schematic or a sketch of the whole watershed would be educational. We're trying to control the water level of Lake Leelanau, but it's not just the water level that's feeding the system.
totally,
It's
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And that's another whole issue when we have storms. People need to understand that we've got a massive land mass area that drains
Watersheds.
into the watershed, or into the lake, rather.
Yeah, the tail from Cedar stretches up to Lime Lake.
It's a long way.
And maybe, it can,
It's interesting, this slowing this way, and then there's some going into Lime Lake, and then the other one's going down to Cedar Lake.
yeah.
But, and then it has to get through the plug, which is Cedar. Right now, the amount of buildup at Cedar is ongoing. I mean, it's, what's the term, eutrophication?
Eutrophication.
Yeah,
What's it called?
Eutrophication, that's
Oh.
the growth of plants.
Okay.
it's basically plugging
The
up.
Yeah.
enrichment of minerals that
Nutrient.
provide for plant growth.
So, yeah, so it all has to get through the plug to get to South Lake.
I think we're to the point too, where maybe we could entertain an idea of a presentation with some quality or watershed experts in conjunction with the Lake Association to describe that in person to people and answer questions. I just think, just reading Facebook and some of the outcry on social media, we just need to help educate people how complex this system is and that we're doing our best.
One of the other bits of data that I'd like to collect, and it'll take some time going forward, because the Eurasian milfoil is a factor, the whole Cedar area watershed is changing how the water flows, how quickly it flows. To get a database that shows here's the level at South Lake using staff gauge comparison data. So measure the staff gauges at the same date. Jim Weiser and I want to do that going over the next couple of years, just to see how high is South Lake. No matter what's going on with the weather, rain, storms, wind, what's the difference in the actual water level? There are times when I look at the electronic gauges and I run down to South Lake, Birch Point, and it's absolutely right. I didn't believe it until I went there to take a look. The gauge told us the truth. So there are events, wind, weather of all sorts. Barometric pressure matters in addition to the wind and the rain. So, okay, I'll make those couple of changes. The Lake Association will probably put this in the next newsletter, which I think is a week or two away. And then you and I will
Sounds good.
put our heads together, drink some wine or something.
Yeah. The rationale for doing the gauges was in reaction to the county board not allowing the dam authority to do water flow study. And we had, the executive meeting, we had presented, we had gone for quotes. Gosley was at 15 grand or something just to do a basic water flow study. hydrologic study. And it was a 7-zip vote. Sounds good. By the time it hit the next Tuesday, it failed. And the discussion of where that could lead was brought up somewhere, somehow, with regard to dredging. You know, would that lead to dredging, and would the county be on the hook for half of a $1.5 million dredge job? You know, so that disappeared as a study.
Okay.
So we went with gauges, sensors, to try to get our understanding of water flow and what the system is doing. And that's kind of where we are, and I really appreciate all the work that's being done. I mean, that's the kind of information that I think we're tasked to come up with, and now that we have confidence in our sensors, we can start connecting the dots and talking about what the system's doing and how it's doing it. And does it point us to a hydrologic study or not? I don't know. It isn't a necessity by any means. Spend a lot of money and find out we can save 12 hours if we do the dredge to get to summer level. But yeah, that's great information. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Are we good? Any other comments? Brings us down to public comment.
My name is Diane V. Lack, and my husband and I are riparians on South Lake Leelanau. I'm also a board member of the Lake Leelanau Lake Association and the vice president. I should have spoke up earlier, but I'm glad I was able to come today. First, I wanted to just tell you that our members are, of course, the largest stakeholders in the successful operation of the dam. And we are extremely thankful to all of you and your expertise and your concern about us as riparians. So we do appreciate that. We also do appreciate that you're allowing the Lake Association to assist, with some of the readings, and especially thankful to you, Rick, for writing up your letter garden center. Appreciate that. Finally, we also agree. Well, first, I do want to also say that we really think it's important too about the operations and procedures, and we're thankful that you're concerned about that as well, especially when it comes to a time to dump. I think that maybe could even be noticed in Cedar, when it's time to dump, when they're underwater, it's time to go. But finally, we also agree with the importance of education, so appreciate, that you're concerned about that as well. We've stepped up our efforts over the last few years, especially with the Eurasian Buttermilk Plant. And it's important, the public needs to know what's going on. So if you do write a press release, we would just appreciate probably to review it as it relates to the Lake Association.
Of course.
But we appreciate your work, and we enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Just one. Chris Trump, again, Lake Leelanau. First of all, I want to thank the board for your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for running on low end of the corridor. That was at the point, just having a discussion with Jerry, that was when it was most beneficial to keep the lake at acceptable levels, especially on South Lake, when he had the ability to be able to run at that point. So I thank the board for running low, and I think we're going to have a much better summer this year than we did last year, utilizing our property. Not just me, but all South Lake riparian owners. And then the other thing I want to talk about is that remember the 5-inch rain that happened in Lake Leelanau. I think it was a little over 5 inches they measured last year, and it actually started washing out the bridge. They had to reconfigure that bridge over there, at least the landscaping portion of it. Washed a lot of the dirt out, almost washed the road out. Those significant 100-year rains are happening more frequently. I'm sure we're going to get another one, so I appreciate the board identifying a process that of when to dump. And I just want to make a recommendation that historically, the dam has always been utilized in significant rainfalls to dump excess water. Over, as long as Jerry's been running, he's told me that he's had to dump quite often, just about every summer. So, so I think that my suggestion would be and I'm glad you guys didn't vote on that motion today. But I would like to add that somehow identify a significant rainfall amount of an inch or more. And if it's forecasted an inch or more, that the dam operator, the dam authority has the right to make a decision on whether we dump or not. So it leaves it open-ended. And then somehow in there state that it's the fact of the operation of the dam over the last several decades, that's always utilized the dump procedure to get rid of excess water. So it's not something new. It's something that's always been practiced, and I can appreciate putting policy around it. And if you identify a rainfall, significant rainfall, forecasted significant rainfall amount of an inch or more, that would explain or give the dam operator or the dam authority the right to utilize or not the dumping procedure. So I again want to thank this board for everything that you do, listening to our voices. And I wasn't able to attend the last two, but I was here in September. I just felt a little dismayed and didn't think that our voices were being heard, but today they were heard, and I really appreciate it. All the South Lake riparians appreciate it. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Commissioner comment? Hearing none, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Chairman, I just wanted to let you know I was able to double check the calendar. So for May 22nd, the room is available until 1 o'clock. There's a health board meeting in here at 1. So if you think between 10 and 1, that would give you enough time to work on.
Yeah, this
your
was a
agenda.
long one. I don't think we're going to be this long.
But I mean, I know that you had quite a few things to look at for the next one as far as putting ideas down for
I think we should be in better shape for the next go.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'll post that meeting.
Thank you.
So that's a go for the 22nd?
Yes.
It's a go.
Okay.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
We'll move, we adjourn.
All right.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.